Hi, my name is Damon Brown of damonbrown.net. My thing is helping non-traditional entrepreneurs such as side hustlers and solopreneurs bloom. If that's your thing, then you're in the right place. You can learn more about me at damonbrown.net. And I'm here to talk about a particular quote that struck me. I have it over on my Instagram at Brown Damon, and it says, "The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today." Again, the highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want to do today. That's courtesy of Black Billionaire. That's BLK Billionaire over on Instagram. I'll put a link in the notes. But thank you so much for allowing me to share your beautiful quote. It hits me on two different levels, and I wanted to share those with you. The first level has to do with what Seth Godin calls price versus cost. I talk about that in my upcoming book, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. And I also talk about that in The Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, which is the previous book, a bestseller from a few years ago that might be of interest to you. And what Seth talks about is the difference between price and cost. So when you're talking about price, then you'd say a Lexus, the price might be, I don't know, I'm not a car guy, but let's say it's $60,000 for a new Lexus. Cool. The cost, though, is the maintenance that's required for the Lexus. Because if you have a Lexus, you can't just take it to the Jiffy Lube to take care of it, right? You need to go take it to a special dealer, correct? And they're going to have a premium on it. If something happens to the car, like you need to replace the seat. I got two little kids. One of them just threw up in the back of my car. Luckily, I don't have a Lexus. But if I had to replace the seat of a Lexus or do some high maintenance thing like that, it's going to cost way more than it does in my relatively affordable family car, right? So there's a cost to what happens. And so if you say this particular thing that you want to reach, like, again, if you want to become a millionaire, or if you want to become a best-selling author, or if you want to become a famous person and you want to be recognized on the street, there's a cost to all three of those goals. I've tasted some of those things, and there's a trade-off to that. So I think that's one of the things that the quote says when it says freedom is being able to have that freedom is freedom, and you're able to be in a space where you can choose what you want to do versus your life choosing what you have to do. So that's the first layer of it. Again, the Seth Godin idea of price versus cost. The second thing, which I talk about again in Build From Now, is the idea of a resource tax. So Build From Now talks about the resources that we all have. It's focus, agility, time, and energy. Again, focus, agility, time, and energy. I call them the fates. They're right on the cover where you see those symbols on the bottom, right? So you see the target, and you see the curves, you see the time, and you see the fire. And we have these resources at different levels depending on where we are in our lives, right? So we might have less energy when we're retired, but we might have more focus because we know we're doing more because we've been alive for X number of decades. There's something I call a resource tax, and I get way more into it in the book, but it's basically this thing of saying you can't just use a resource, but there's actually a cost to using that resource. And so as you make decisions along the way, you're going to be cutting off certain opportunities. People call it opportunity cost, at least in the business world or the economics world. And so there's a cost to you choosing to do different things. It reminds me of this classic story, which you might have heard of, where there's a high class businessman, probably from Manhattan, that comes down to vacation, I believe somewhere down in Mexico or somewhere in that area over on the coast. And he sees this guy, older guy, who has this fishing thing where he goes out, he goes to fish, he brings the fish, up over to the beach and he cooks it. If you've been to the islands or been on the coast in any of those areas, you know what I'm talking about. And the businessman eats it and he says, "This is some of the best fish I've ever had in my life. You know what? I'm going to invest in your business because it's just you. You're doing all this work and let's go ahead and get some money going." And the older guy's like, "Well, okay, so let's say you give me some money, then what?" He's like, "Well, then you'll have a bunch of boats, and then you could be in charge of a bunch of people who have boats." And then the older guy says, "Well, then what?" And the gentleman says, "Well, then you'll have a bunch of boats, and then you'll be so popular that you'll be able to license things and all that, and then you'll be able to sell everything and be rich." And the older man's like, "Okay, and then what am I going to do after I get rich?" He says, "Well, then you can go ahead, take your time, be on the boat, spend your whole days spending time with people, and take naps every single day." And of course, the older guy looks at him and says, "I'm already doing that now. Why do I need the money?" In other words, what you have right now, even though it might seem limiting, and I get that, what you have right now, there are certain freedoms and opportunities that you have right now that when you pursue what you feel like you need, you might actually lose some of that freedom. And so I know I've taken quite a few risks in my career. You can go to damonbrown.net and see a little bit more of my history or grab one of my books where I talk about it. And in taking those risks, I was able to take those risks because I had fluidity and freedom in my life. And there were actual doors that I literally closed, not literally on people, but doors that I closed so I could have the opportunities that led up to me talking to you today. So think about that. Again, this beautiful quote, the highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. So what kind of wealth do you have right now? If you want to learn more about your resources, you can come over and take a free assessment quiz. It's like literally 3 or 4 questions, handmade. It's multiple choice. It'll take you like 2-3 minutes. You can go over to buildfromnowquiz.com. That's buildfromnowquiz.com. It'll hook you up and give you insight as far as what your highest resource is with focus, agility, time, and energy, and figure out where you should be putting your talents and how you can be creative and make an impact and nourish the world no matter where you are in your life. So remember to always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. Bye for now.